Yo, what's up everybody? And we're about to dive into something crazy. We all know America, right? Land of the free, home of the brave, and like the third biggest country on the planet. But here's the thing, a huge chunk of it is practically a ghost town. So today, we're talking about the top 9 emptiest states in the US, places where you're more likely to run into a moose than another human. Alright, let's kick things off with the heavyweight champion of empty space, Alaska. This place is massive, right? Twice the size of Texas, but only 733,000 people call this icy paradise home. Think about it, New York City alone has like 8 million people crammed into tiny apartments. And the wildlife? Forget about it. Grizzly bears, whales, bald eagles, it's like National Geographic threw up all over the place. But here's the catch, Alaska doesn't mess around. Brutal winters like colder than your ex's heart kinda cold, and the sun? It's basically on a coffee break for half the year. So yeah, Alaska is wild, beautiful, and about as forgiving as a grizzly bear with a toothache. Next up, we're heading to Wyoming, the least populated state in the entire US of A. We're talking about 6 people per square mile. That's like enough room to do a whole marching band routine without hitting anyone. But hey, if you're the kind of person who likes their personal space, Wyoming is basically heaven on earth. Plus, you've got Yellowstone National Park, which is basically like the world's biggest, most explosive backyard, geysers, hot springs, bison traffic jams, it's wild. But let's be real, Wyoming is not for everyone. If you're used to having a Starbucks on every corner, you're gonna have a bad time. This place is all about rugged individualism, where you gotta be able to fix your own car, wrangle a steer, and survive a blizzard without breaking a sweat. Alright, hold on to your hats, folks. Because we're going to North Dakota, the land of endless skies and even longer winters. Now, North Dakota is like that quiet kid in class who everyone underestimates. It's got this reputation for being, well, kind of boring. But trust me, there's more to this place than meets the eye. First of all, they've got more oil than a Saudi prince's bathtub. Seriously, North Dakota is basically fueling the entire country. But here's the thing, there are more oil rigs than people in some parts of this state. That's how wide open it is. And speaking of wide open, get ready for some serious sky action. Sunsets that'll make you want to write poetry, and sunrises that'll make you want to get up before noon, almost. But yeah, North Dakota doesn't mess around when it comes to weather. Winters that'll freeze your nostrils shut, and summers that'll make you sweat gravy. But hey, if you can handle a little or a lot of extreme weather, North Dakota will reward you with some of the most beautiful untouched landscapes in the country. Chapter 4 Maine, lobsters, lighthouses, and a whole lot of trees. Alright, let's switch gears and head east to Maine, the lobster capital of the world. Now Maine is like that ruggedly handsome lumberjack you meet at a coffee shop, a little rough around the edges but with a heart of gold. We're talking about winters that last longer than a Kardashian marriage. But hey, if you're into skiing, snowboarding, or just holing up in a cozy cabin with a good book, Maine is the place to be. Plus, let's not forget about the coastline. Maine has more coastline than California, which is crazy when you think about it. We're talking about jagged cliffs, picturesque lighthouses, and harbors full of lobster boats. And speaking of lobster, get ready to eat your weight in crustaceans. Maine lobster is basically a religion up here, and for good reason, it's delicious. But Maine is more than just lobster and lighthouses. It's a place where people still value hard work, community, and a good pair of bean boots. It's a place where you can escape the hustle and bustle of city life and reconnect with nature. Chapter 5. Vermont. Maple syrup, mountains, and a whole lot of chill. Next up, we're heading to Vermont, the land of maple syrup, craft beer, and more flannel shirts than a hipster convention. Vermont is like that friend who's always down to chill, whether it's hiking in the mountains, sipping on a locally brewed IPA, or just hanging out by a bonfire telling stories. And speaking of mountains, Vermont has got some serious peaks. We're talking about the Green Mountains, which turn into a kaleidoscope of colors every fall. Seriously, it's like Mother Nature hired Bob Ross to paint the landscape. And the best part? You can actually hike or bike through most of it. But Vermont isn't just about the great outdoors, it's also got a thriving arts and culture scene, with tons of art galleries, music festivals, and farmers markets. And the food? Forget about it. We're talking about farm-to-table dining at its finest, with fresh local ingredients that'll make your taste buds sing. But let's be real, Vermont is not for everyone. If you're addicted to the fast pace of city life, you might find Vermont a little too, well, slow. But if you're looking for a place to escape the rat race, breathe in some fresh air, and maybe tap a few maple trees, Vermont might just be your new happy place. It's a place where you can truly escape the crowds, reconnect with nature, and maybe even channel your inner cowboy. Chapter 6 Montana. Big sky country, big mountains, big emptiness. Alright, saddle up partners, because we're heading to Montana, the land of big skies, big mountains, and even bigger adventures. Montana is like that rugged cowboy you see in the movies, independent, strong-willed, and always up for a challenge. And trust me, Montana will challenge you. We're talking about winters that'll make you question your sanity, and summers that'll make you sweat more than a politician under oath. But hey, that's all part of the charm, right? And the scenery? Forget about it. We're talking about the Rocky Mountains, which are basically like Mother Nature's version of a jaw-dropping fireworks display. Plus, you've got Glacier National Park, which is like walking into a postcard from heaven. But Montana isn't just about the great outdoors. It's also got a rich history, with ghost towns, cattle ranches, and more cowboy hats than a John Wayne marathon. But let's be real, Montana is not for the faint of heart. If you're afraid of a little hard work, a little solitude, and a lot of wide open space, you might want to stick to the lower 48. But if you're looking for a place where you can truly escape the crowds, reconnect with nature, and maybe even channel your inner cowboy, Montana might just be the adventure you've been searching for. It's a place where you can truly escape the crowds, reconnect with nature, and maybe even channel your inner cowboy. Alright folks, we're heading to South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore and the Badlands, and a whole lot of, well, nothing. It's a place with prairies, canyons, and surreal landscapes. And let's not forget Mount Rushmore. South Dakota is full of charm and history. It's a place to escape the crowds and reconnect with nature. Alright, we're switching gears and heading to the East Coast to check out Delaware, the second smallest state in the US. Now Delaware is like that unassuming little restaurant tucked away on a side street. You might not notice it at first, but once you step inside, you're blown away by the amazing food and cozy atmosphere. And trust me, Delaware has a lot to offer. First of all, it's got beaches. That's right, Delaware has over 20 miles of coastline along the Atlantic Ocean. We're talking about sandy beaches, boardwalks, and more ice cream shops than you can shake a waffle cone at. But Delaware isn't just about the beach, it's also got a rich history, being the first state to ratify the Constitution and all. We're talking about colonial towns, historical landmarks, and more antique shops than you can shake a musket at. And then there's the tax-free shopping. That's right, Delaware doesn't have sales tax, which means you can shop till you drop without breaking the bank. But Delaware isn't just about history and shopping, it's also got a thriving arts and culture scene, with museums, theaters, and more craft breweries than you can shake a pint glass at. But, let's be real, Delaware is not for everyone. If you're looking for a fast-paced, in-your-face kind of city, you might want to stick to New York or Philly. But if you're looking for a place with a big personality, a rich history, and a whole lot of charm, Delaware might just be the perfect place for you. Last but not least, we're heading to Rhode Island, the smallest state in the US. Now, Rhode Island is like that friend who's small in stature but big in personality. It's got this infectious energy that's impossible to resist. And trust me, Rhode Island has a lot to offer. First of all, it's got history. We're talking about colonial towns, historic mansions, and more lighthouses than you can shake a telescope at. But Rhode Island isn't just about the past. It's also got a thriving arts and culture scene, with museums, galleries, and more coffee shops than you can shake a French press at. And then there's the food. Rhode Island is known for its seafood, especially its clam chowder. We're talking about creamy, chunky, soul-satisfying chowder that'll make you want to lick the bowl clean. But Rhode Island isn't just about history, art, and food, it's also got beaches. That's right, Rhode Island has over 400 miles of coastline, which is pretty impressive for such a small state. We're talking about sandy beaches, rocky shores, and more sailboats than you can shake a mast at. But let's be real, Rhode Island is not for everyone. If you're looking for a slow-paced, laid-back kind of life, you might want to try one of the other states on this list. But if you're looking for a place with a big personality, a rich history, and a whole lot of charm, Rhode Island might just be the perfect place for you. It's a place where you can truly escape the crowds, reconnect with nature, and maybe even channel your inner cowboy. So there you have it, folks, the 9 emptiest states in the US. Would you trade the hustle and bustle of city life for the peace and quiet of rural America? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more adventures.